So Universal Page is a new NFT platform on Luxo, a new L1 blockchain that has introduced gasless NFT marketplace. How do you see this move? Do you think this will stir up tough competition between NFT marketplaces?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible it could. There's no guarantees because I don't really think there's no one single thing that makes a difference. There've been solutions before with very low gas fees, for example, and you haven't seen everybody move en masse to different blockchains just because there are low gas fees. So Solana has really low gas fees, but you still have Ethereum for the longest time was the king, and then now you see Bitcoin, which has actually higher gas fees if you want to call it that, or transaction fees. But then so it comes down to like a multi-pronged question, whether it's like it's got the correct branding, whether the right people are behind the technology. So a lot of it depends on who is behind the blockchain and the technology and even the product itself. Because if the right people are behind that, then they could certainly make the right partnerships with people within other areas of the blockchain space to where it could be useful. So for example, you would have things like Web3 identities that tie into the NFTs and things like that. A whole bunch of sort of ecosystem plays become possible if the right people are involved in that particular blockchain and that particular product. So I think it mostly depends on the team behind that project, and the Luxo marketplace, for example, and who those people are connected with and what integrations and partnerships they're able to actually bring out, as opposed to just the fact that, let's say they have no gas fees. I mean, you're going to have these different products has one particular USP over the other, but that's not going to, massively change unless there's sort of a broader move towards it due to like the partnerships that the company has made.
Right. So what challenges you see would influence NFT adoption in coming years, and how to combat these challenges? Will the current market situation help in rebuilding investor confidence, especially for NFT startups?
Wow, that's a great question. So, I mean, recently there was a big scandal recently when I think the Rarible Unstoppable domains auctioned some Web3 domains on Rarible, and I actually won one of those auctions, and it turned out they didn't actually transfer the domain, and it turned out when we did a further research into it, that several of those bids actually were not should not have been able to be made. In fact, one of the blockchain forensics firms actually confirmed that it was like published in various different publications online, Binance, etc. So essentially, what we found out is that a lot of the volume on Rarible was fake. So up to 70% of the transactions in these individual auctions should not have occurred based off of their own auction rules. Match Systems is is a forensic firm that actually looks at these transactions, and they're the ones who first determined that, and they put out a report about that. That was picked up by quite a few news articles and organizations. And so I think one of the biggest things is like NFT fraud, because how do you, if you're, let's say, bidding on an auction, and then you realize that, let's say, 70% of those bids are, not accurate bids, or they shouldn't have actually gone through. Well, then how do you trust like the platform itself, right? And this has been an issue for a lot of these, NFT platforms. There was an article on LuxRare recently that said something like over 70 to 80% of the volume is fake. So I mean, if you're looking at fake volume, but it comes down to let's say an auction, that fake volume doesn't really, like, it makes a huge difference, because at the end of that fake volume, somebody's actually making a transfer for an item at a much higher price than it would ever normally happen. Whereas when it comes to let's say fake volume on an exchange, well, that's, let's say, done by a market maker. They're on the hook if they send the price too high and the market doesn't support that, then that actually costs them money. But that's not the case, for example, if you own the platform like Rarible, and you can, let's say, withdraw certain bids, which is what it turns out they were doing in this case. So I think there's a lot of larger companies that are able to sweep certain things under the rug because there's so much interest in NFTs, but then also people tend to believe that NFTs are all a scam anyway. So nobody's really looking into it to actually like determine which one is more of a scam than the other.
Right.
So I think there is like, so to answer your question succinctly, I think it's this sort of perception that NFTs are a scam. And I think that's the thing that really you need to like the industry needs to get over before, you can really be successful. I think the major players, Rarible, for example, some of these companies were really OpenSea recently. One of their employees was arrested and spent time in federal prison for insider trading, and this is an issue at Rarible as well. So yeah, I think these are some of the things that need to be sorted out before it becomes mainstream.
So what are the future events that would impact the NFT market situation? The race for grabbing market share is on between Blur and OpenSea, while Solana has marked its presence in recent times. Against that backdrop, how do you see market scenario shaping?
Yeah, believe it or not, I've seen some of these NFT platforms that had no volume now suddenly have a lot of volume, and then some platforms that had a lot of volume in the past have no volume now. So the one thing that I've noticed about, the rankings when it comes to these specific areas is that they're massively in flux. So you might have a launchpad that's like ranked number 1 on one day, and then they might drop down to number 10 like in a couple of months. So I think it's so much in flux because so much depends on individual collections that are being released. So for example, you have a few very, very hot collections released on, let's say, Blur, and that can be, for that month or for that next several months, that becomes, let's say, the top NFT marketplace. Now then that gives it this inertia for other projects that are launching. So they're more likely, for example, to choose Blur. But I think if you're looking at like, there's a lot of variation in the, let's say, the top 10, but then those tend to move around a lot. But new entrants, there's still opportunities for new entrants to come in with, let's say, some particular kind of USP that others have not tried. And so it really massively depends on the collection that they're selling at that particular time. So for example, if Blur happens to be dealing with a few very, very, very popular collections, like it's nothing for it to be, the top volume wise, NFT marketplace for the next few months. The question is like how long that can endure, because I think these things change massively quickly.
Right. So talking about regulations, what kind of regulations are needed in the NFT market? What kind of standard regulations do you think will be passed as well as followed by countries globally?
Well, I think, certain securities laws will end up need to be passed, or at least need to be sort of clarified. So one of the big things about, normal tokens is whether something is a security token or a utility token, right? I'm talking about fungible tokens here. And the thing that differentiates that is known, at least in the United States, is known as a Howey test. It's like a multi-pronged test where you look at whether something is advertised as an investment. Is the purpose, to make money over time? Is it a common enterprise, and so on and so forth? There's a few different prongs that are used in the test. Well, a lot of some people have actually started to interpret the law such that they feel like if it's a non-fungible token, that those securities laws don't apply for some reason, which I disagree with, and I think that the government is going to come down very heavily on people that believe that, because it's the same is true in terms of like whether it's a non-fungible token or a fungible token, it could still be a security. And so there was some gray area about that, where a lot of companies were actually putting out, NFTs that would really investment instruments effectively. And I think the SEC is going to come down really, really, really strongly on that. And that's also going to be, regardless of whether the SEC directly comes down on one particular project, it's enough for the SEC to come down on, a few major, let's say, crypto exchanges, which will then no longer do business with companies unless they have, very, very ironclad explanations from their legal opinions that says that, let's say, that they're not a security. So I think securities laws for one. Another would be, of course, things things like fraud. Wash trading is a massive problem in the NFT industry. So you want to make sure that that's not an issue, because wash trading costs people money. If it's being wash traded and the price goes up, and then somebody eventually buys it for a price where it's already been inflated because because it's been wash traded up there, then there's actually fraud that's taken place, and that's illegal. And that there's that's wire fraud. Each count of wire fraud in the United States, I believe it's $500,000 in fines, and then up to 20 years in prison. So these sort of things have to be more stringently enforced in the first place by authorities in the United States. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot of appetite for it. It's kind of difficult sometimes to get for victims to get even heard. When we had an issue with Rarible, the only reason it managed to get a lot of press is because we were industry people in the first place, and we were purchasing the domain for our company. But if you're an average, retail investor, a retail normal person who doesn't have, like $100,000, $200,000 followers, you're not going to be able to move the same mountains and get the same press to listen to you and get the same attention on your particular issue. So I think things like, maybe an ombudsman would be helpful, something that's sort of, if not outside regulation, but at least maybe self-regulation. Maybe the companies themselves could get together and form some sort of association that had an ombudsman that sort of helps sort out issues for end users that maybe felt that they were treated wrong by any particular, platform. So I think some sort of, if not government regulation, which can sometimes become clunky and, not fast moving enough, if not that, at least some degree of self-regulation by the major players would certainly be appreciated. And I think that would really help the industry.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jason, for giving us your valuable time and for having this conversation with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Happy to help.
Thank you. That's all in this special segment for now. This is me, Ruchi Sharma, signing off. Do like, share and subscribe to 3.0 and for more information and stories, log on to our website www.3versetv.io or scan the QR code.